Hey everyone, in this video we will see how to automatically populate template Word documents from a SharePoint list and send it by email with Power Automate, which can save you a lot of time when writing several different types of documents, things like invoices, contracts, and communications in general. And one important thing here is that this solution will rely on a premium connector, the Word Online Business connector, so have in mind that you may not be able to implement this solution with a Power Automate free license. And before we start, don't forget to like this video and subscribe to the channel. I will also leave some links in the video description to a free Power Automate basic course at Udemy. Then let's get started. And here we have this SharePoint list that we are using to hold data related to quotations that must be sent to a few clients. We have here the title column to store the name of the client. Then we have a column to store the email address of this client. And here I have a few test mailboxes that I have in the Digital Mail 365 tenant. Then we have columns for the service name and the service description. And we also have two numeric columns, one to store the quantity of days estimated for executing the service and the total price for this quotation. And in addition to this SharePoint list, we also have this Word document representing a service quotation. Here I have a few fields to represent all of the different columns that we have in our SharePoint list. And we also have this click or tap here to enter a text information in all of those fields. If I select one of these options, you'll see that we have a small label on the top. This, for example, is the service description. We also have for client and for any of the other fields of our template. And these small boxes are actually dynamic controls that Power Automate will use to fill this template. And to include those dynamic controls into your Word document, you have to simply go to the desktop version of Word, as you can see right here, and then you go to the Developer tab, and you'll find here a few options of different controls. In this case, I'm using the plain text content control. This is one of the controls that can be read by Power Automate. Not all of these controls are readable by Power Automate. For example, this rich text content control is not readable. So make sure to include the plain text content control whenever you want to add dynamic text values to your Word templates. And here, once you click into this control, you will see the same fields that we have in the rest of the document. The only difference is that we don't have any label here by default. And to include this label, we can simply click here over properties and then pass any name, like label, for example. Once you click OK, you'll see that now we have the label over here. And those labels, they are important because the same name of these labels will be used as the input field names in the populate a Microsoft template action in Power Automate. So I don't need this extra control. I will simply remove from here. And let's come back to Power Automate. So here I already have this get items action into my flow. This action is reading all of the records from the quotations SharePoint list that we saw a few seconds ago. And to populate my Word document, I can simply include a new action here, and I'll search for the Word connector. For some reason, Power Automate doesn't retrieve the built-in Word connector here on the first options when you search for Word, but you can sort those results by name and set the sort to a descending mode. And then you see here the Word Online Business connector on the first set of results. And then you have here the populate a Microsoft Word template action, and you select it. So here you simply have to populate these fields with the details related to the document that you want to use as template. In this case, we are using this quotation template that I have under community and quotations folder into my Digital Mail community SharePoint site. So I'll quickly populate those fields here. And once you select the Word file, Power Automate will automatically generate the input fields corresponding to each of the controls included into this template, and these input names will match the labels that we assigned to each of those controls. So let's select this Show All. And now it's pretty simple. We just have to connect the dynamic content from the respective SharePoint list columns to these Word template input fields. So for the service type, we take service, and here Power Automate automatically included for us this for each loop. Since we are retrieving a list of items, or in this case, an array of objects, we need to use a loop to iterate each of these records from this list of items. And this is what this for each loop is doing. So for the service description, I will include the description property. Then for client, we are using the title property. Then we have the email and this quantity. And finally, we have the price property. So at this point, we are populating this Word template, but we are still not saving that as a new file. And to create this new file, we can simply use the create file action. You can either use the SharePoint connector or the OneDrive connector. It depends on where are you saving this file. In my case, I will save on a SharePoint document library, so I select the create a file from SharePoint connector. And I'll simply have to select the SharePoint site and the folder where I want to store this data. So take the same quotations folder as I took before, and then I have to assign a name to this file. In my case, I'll simply take the name of the client, which is represented by the title dynamic content. I'll add an underscore over here, and then I'll pass the current date. So basically take the year, the month, and the day. So for that, I can use an UTC now expression. It will retrieve to me the current date and time, and then I can enclose that into a format date and time expression, which will allow me to customize how I will present this date and time. And the format will be basically the 4 digits of the current year, then the 2 digits of the current month, and finally the 2 digits of the current day of the month. So that's it for this expression. You can hit add over here. And then for the file content, we can simply pass the dynamic content corresponding to the populate a Microsoft Word template action. At this point, we are already creating one Word file for each of the populated templates based on each record from our SharePoint list, but we also want to send these quotations to all of the emails listed here under this SharePoint list, and these quotations will be attached to this email message, of course. And for that, ideally, we should also, before sending those quotations, convert them into a PDF format. So for converting a Word document into a PDF document, we can also use an action from the Word connector. So let's follow the same process as before. And here you can see the convert Word document to PDF action. That's exactly what we need. And this action will require the path to the file that you want to convert to PDF. So here we select the Digital Mail Community SharePoint site. We select the documents, document library. But the file in this case, we need to select it dynamically because this file is being created under this create file action. At this moment, before we run the flow, we don't have any existing file, so we cannot simply search that under this folder tree over here. And to reference the path used by this create file action, we can simply come here to the expression, and then under the dynamic content, we have this path property from the create file. As the name suggests, this property will retrieve the path where this file is being created. But the problem is that this path over here is already including a reference to this document library, the shared documents. So in this case, we need to ignore the shared documents. And to do that, we can use a replace function. So this function is used to substitute any text within a string. In this case, the string is the folder path to our newly created file, and we will simply remove the shared documents reference by replacing it for an empty string. So let's open the parentheses here. The first parameter for the replace function is the string that we want to use as base, which in this case is this body path property from the create file action. The second parameter will be the text that you want to replace, so the old text in this case. And for this specific scenario is shared documents, just like this with this slash in the beginning, because this is how this path is represented. After you run this flow, I will show how does this path property looks under this create file action, and you understand why we are using this slash shared documents as an old text for the replace function. And then as a new text, you want to simply pass an empty string, just like this. So you just open and close single quotes. And that's it. We can simply click add over here. And by the way, one important thing that I forgot to include here in the create file is the extension of the file. And we should do that. So I will simply put here docx, since this is an Word document. And now we are good for the create file. We are already converting this Word document to a PDF. We are not saving this PDF anywhere. We could save that if you wanted by using another create a file action. But for sending this PDF as an attachment, we don't need necessarily to save that into a SharePoint or a OneDrive instance. So let's send this email right now, and I will include a new step here. I will search for send an email. You can use this first send an email action if you want to send this message from your individual mailbox. But from my end, I will use a shared mailbox that I created here in my tenant. This shared mailbox is called invoice at digitalmail.net. So all of these quotations, they will be sent by this invoice at digitalmail.net. And then for the to input, here I have to select the destination of this message. I will click here the switch to advanced mode because I don't want to send this email to a static address. I want to send to exactly whatever is the email address listed here under the SharePoint list and captured by the get items. So simply select the dynamic content corresponding to the email property from the get items. And then here in the subject line, I can put something like service quotation and then the name of the client. So the title property from the get items. And then here in the body, I can simply say hi, and then the name of the company again. And here you can say something like find the quotation for service attached to this message. And then here before service, can make it a little better, a little more customized, so we can pass the service name and even make that bold. Okay, so we already have our message here, we already have the subject line, and now we just need to include the attachment for this message. And here we have this advanced parameter for the attachments, and then you can simply click into add new item. Here we have to set an attachment name. In this case, I'll simply pass the name of the client. I believe that it will make a very customized message for them. And then you have to include the extension of the file as well. In this case, .pdf, because you're already converting this Word document to a PDF file. And for the content, we can simply pass the dynamic content from the convert Word document to PDF action. So that's it. Let's save our flow now. We are receiving this warning here because we're not applying any filter queries to the get items. It's not a problem for us. We have only 4 records into this list, so we don't have to worry about it. And the flow was saved even with this warning. Here in this other tab, I already have a flow run that I made just for testing purposes, and I will resubmit it again. And now the flow ran successfully. I will expand here the for each loop just to showcase to you what I meant about the folder path. And here you can see exactly what I said. This folder path starts with these shared documents, which we are already providing to the convert Word document to PDF action here with this document library documents. These documents is basically the same thing for these shared documents. So we need to exclude that from this input when you are selecting the file path to be provided to this convert Word document to PDF action. And here, if you go to the route inputs, you can see that the folder is excluding that shared documents path. We are simply taking the folder path starting at the community folder. So the flow runs successfully, as you can see. And now if you come to this folder, you see that we have a few new Word files over here. They're following the naming convention that we set. So we have the name of the company and the current date represented by the year 2025, the month 04, April in this case, and the date, the 28th. If you open any of these files, you'll see that the information is matching exactly the same data from the SharePoint list. So in this case, we have Sunrise Bakery, test 3 at Digital Mill, 75 days to complete the work, and $2,400 the total price. And here we have the same information under this third record over here. We can do the same thing with the other files. We have the same information here. So this one have the green field, for example. We have 4,500 as price, and then we have this information right here in this first record from the list. Now, if you go to our invoice mailbox, you can see that we have 4 sent items over here, one for each of the email addresses listed into the SharePoint list. And here we have the customized mail body. For some reason, we didn't capture the bold text that I applied to the service name, but still we were able to capture the name of the service dynamically, the name of the company. And here we have a PDF version of the service quotation. So same information from the service quotation that we have here in a Word version, which is the same data as well that we have here into this SharePoint list. So this is how you populate bulk Word documents from a SharePoint list and even convert them to PDFs and send it via email, everything with a single flow and in a few seconds. I hope you enjoyed this video. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section, and I hope to see you in the next video.